Hey, this is Andrew Walker of PhysioWorks, coming magically from the PhysioWorks building inside of Faru Prosthetics, and I'm going to turn this off now so you don't go too dizzy. It's good to see you all. There we go. So, what I want to talk about today is a little bit of why I am out of network with insurances and why I do have structured PhysioWorks the way that we have. So I've been a PT for 15 years, and I've worked with all manner of different types of patients, and with athletes I've worked from high school all the way through collegiate and professional athletes. And one of the frustrations I always had working within the typical insurance-based system was that really insurance is interested in getting you back to your daily function. And they mean by that, your basic daily function. So going up and down stairs, walking around, going in and out the grocery store. They're not particularly interested in getting you back to work. I remember reading a Blue Cross provider manual, and it actually stated in there that it does not guarantee helping you to get back to work. They're also not interested in getting you back to your spool. And amazingly, and this completely befuddles me, is that they're not interested in helping to reduce your injury risk. So injury prevention is not a huge interest at this point of insurance companies. So several great things are not particularly covered, and because of that I found that people were not able to get the full rehab that they needed, and were not able to safely get back to their sports and the likes. So with opening PhysioWorks, I focus a lot on getting people to their full potential, and that includes getting them back to sports. That includes helping them reduce their injury risk, and that also includes helping them to improve their performance. So actually in this last week I had someone who told me that they're taking a whole hour off of a PR of a race recently. They've been injured for a fair period, and we'd done rehab to get their pain better, and in doing so, not only did we get the pain better, we also improved their overall mechanics, their training methodology, and they did significantly better. And not only knocking an hour of PR, he also said that he just felt like he recovered quicker each day and recovered quicker after the race. So being able to work the way I do gives me some real opportunities, and I also see people for second, third, fourth opinions, and I see in that, I see rehab that they've done either themselves in facilities locally, and this is not to say that other facilities do a bad job necessarily. There are some really great physical therapists around here who work in network with insurance, but what I see is that the rehab doesn't always meet the demands that the person needs. So let's just think of, I'm going to get up and I'm going to show you a couple of exercises. I'm going to show you an exercise that's very often used in therapy clinics and online for people with shoulder pain, and I'm going to show you an exercise that's a couple of exercises that are often done for people with knee pain. So let me just turn the camera around. We'll try and turn it around. Let's see. Click. There we go. So an exercise that's often given out to people with shoulder pain is band exercises, and very often for a shoulder problem they're given some band rotations to do internal rotation, and then I'm not going to switch around to you can see the front of me. They also do exercises for band rotation externally. Okay, so that's someone with shoulder pain perhaps. Now let's take the person who has knee pain. They may do some work with some squats. They may do different types of squats. They may do goblet squats, kettlebell, whatever, or they might even just do little mini squats. Very often mini squats are done. And then they've got the little Reebok type step, and very often you see people doing step ups or stepping up and over. Now in of themselves, I'm going to come right around the other side of the camera, in of themselves, there's nothing wrong with these things. So let me turn the camera around. But let's ask a couple of questions. Let's take the person who has shoulder pain, and let's not even take the athlete. Let's take the person in the house, the mum or the dad, who has to pick their kid up, or has to reach up to a cupboard to pick something heavy, maybe a bag of flour out of the cupboard or a heavy jar. Does doing band exercises down here really prepare them for that task? I would argue no. You're just gaining strength down here by your side. Yes, you're working the rotator cuff, but you're gaining your strength down here. When you want to maybe reach up to a cabinet, you want to be able to lift your kid up. Or in the case of an athlete, let's say a baseball pitcher who's going to be up here throwing, or a basketball player who's going to be setting the ball up like that, they've got to have strength above their head, and doing band exercises down by their side, they're not really achieving that. So let's now go back to the other things I showed you, just typical squats, mini squats, maybe deeper squats, or step-ups. Well, let's say you've got knee pain, and let's say you're a runner who has knee pain. There's nothing wrong, again, with doing these things, but when we run, the biggest thing we do is we do a single leg squat, and we follow it with a hop. So it's single leg squat into a hop, single leg squat into a hop, and we basically join those exercises together to form our running stride. So I see people who've come to me who've only done regular squats, and they haven't done single leg squats, and they've maybe gotten somewhat better through the rehab they've done or the work they've done themselves, but when it comes to actually adding running back in, when it comes to actually increasing their mileage, that's when they start to have problems. And you know, the other thing I see within patients that are injured who come for different opinions to see me is they've not always had someone look at the actual thing they're having trouble with. So that could be the equivalent of someone picking a kid up, but it could also be an athlete, the athlete running. They've gone to see someone about their running, and they've not had anyone look at their running. No one's actually, you know, broken their running down and said, okay, here are some things you can do. So one of the things I get to do, this is the beauty of having your own business and being able to tailor everything around what you think your clients need. I do video running analysis, so I can look right from behind them, from the side, and slow someone down frame by frame and see, you know, what can we do about your running technique that maybe will help help to reduce your injury risk? What can we do with your running technique to improve your performance? What can we do with your running technique to help take your pain away or to moderate it? And the key thing, I think, is that it's not a magic bullet, but if it's not any part of your the thought process or the solution, and then you go back to doing it, even if you're stronger, some of the mistakes that you make could certainly come back to haunt you. So last night I did a talk over at Bicycle Cove's new Madison shop, and we did a talk about running to triathletes and swimming and cycling, and at the end of it, a guy said to me, he goes, wow, I've been doing about 4 things wrong there. And he had a big race coming up in a couple of weeks' time. But the key thing is that, you know, these are things that can be helped. So if I get a runner in here and I look at them on the treadmill and I see that they're crossing over every side, and let's say they've got IT band pain, or let's say they've got shin splints, there's a correlation between those things. So I can do something to help correct that mechanics. Now, the physical examination, I can find out whether they're weak in different areas and maybe inflexible in different areas, and I can do things to help that. But the combination of those things, that's what really can help people get over their problem and actually make good progress. Hey, Litha, good to see you on the live, and hey, Kate. So I think the other thing is not just running. I mean, I do video analysis of a lot of runners because I find that very interesting, but let's take CrossFitters. So I do CrossFit, I work out at CrossFit Nomad in Madison, and so lifting. So I see a good number of people who lift who have back pain. So again, there's lots of wonderful exercises, and there's great manual hands-on treatments that you can do, both by physical therapists and chiropractors. But what if you haven't had anyone look at your lifting? What if you make things feel better, and then you go back to lifting, and because of your technique, you hurt yourself? So I think it's really important that your rehab includes someone looking at the technique of your sport. So let me just turn the camera back around, and I'm going to show you a couple of different things that we can do. So let's just throw this out of the way. So let's say you're a runner. Like I say, squats, well, they're not running on 2 feet. Single leg squats, that's more important. Now, does it need to be pistol squats getting down here? No, it doesn't, because runners, when they run, their single leg squat is very minimal bend. It's maybe 20 to 30 degrees of bend. What they need to have is that 20 to 30 degrees of bend without collapse there, without collapse there. So we need to improve that mechanics. Well, it's not just single leg squatting that runners do. They do, and step back a bit, single leg squat into a hop, into a hop. That's what they do when they run. Any runner, single leg squat into a hop. So if you, as a runner, have a poor single leg squat, that's one thing. But if you have a poor hop, if you collapse every time you hop, either at the hip here or at the knee, that's a potential place for injury. So if we can improve those mechanics, we can see significant improvements in pain, significant reductions in injury, and also improvements in performance. And I would say there's one exercise I give pretty much to all my runners at some point, it's a single leg squat. But it's also jumping. So running is a very ballistic, kind of rebounding type of exercise. So the Reebok step there, I could jump off that Reebok step. Am I going to get much out of it? Probably not, because when you run, you come down typically from a little bit of a higher vantage point. Or let's say you run a trail and you're coming down from a rock, you land from more of a height, so there's more gravity accelerating you down to the floor, so there's more load. So let me grab another prop. A box, kind of a plyometric type box. I might look at someone, I don't know if you can see my head in this picture or not, and I'm going to watch how they jump. How do they land? Do they land heavy? Do they have good mechanics? I might look and see how do they jump, land, and then jump again. I might look to see how do they do jumping and landing on one leg. So these are really important things to look at and to see how they do. So that's runners. Now I'm going to pull out one more prop, and that is a weight bar, a barbell. So skip over that barbell. I want to see what their mechanics are like when they're deadlifting, for example. So deadlift, I'm here. And what I want to look at, for example, is where are they at? Is their back relatively straight? Do they have a big arch to their back? If they have a good start position, when they actually load up, are they loading up by arching their back to get up? So I see a good number of people who lift with pain because they want to come up by arching their back. They want to use their spine extensors rather than using their hamstrings, rather than using their glutes to extend the hips. So if you have problems with a lifting type sport like CrossFit, you want someone to actually look at your mechanics, to take a video, to slow it down frame by frame, to see how you can, what can be affecting you. Now, I'm running around here, again, slightly out of breath. Shows I need to go to CrossFit more. But this sort of equipment as well is actually very often not in a therapy clinic, it's in a gym. It's intimidating to people, and it's really good equipment, not just for people doing CrossFit or people who want to lift, but it's great equipment for runners. So a lot of my runners that I work with, I want to get them strong. I want to get them more resilient. So I teach them how to lift. I teach them how to deadlift, teach them how to squat, and help them to increase their load capacity. So, you know, me doing a single leg squat and getting control is one thing, or even getting against some weight, but I can build in more capacity into the muscles by lifting. So I'm gonna come back around here and turn the camera around. Alrighty. Oh, I see Jeffrey's watching. Hey, Jeffrey. Some of my old colleagues. It's great to see him. So, there are lots of ways that people can try and rehab, and I'm not saying that my one is a magic way of doing it. I'm not trying to say that I'm some guru. I don't know all the answers, and I'm not a magician. That's certainly the case. But there are things that we know about how we should rehab people, things that we know work, things that we know don't work. And unfortunately, there are things that still persist on the internet within clinics that have been shown to not work, but is still being used. And some of that, unfortunately, is because of insurance, because it's stuff that can be billed. And so there's things I don't do in the clinic because I don't think that they're very beneficial. And being out of network, I really want to try and find high value things for my clients to get them better as quickly as possible, but not always as quickly as possible, but to make them actually more resilient. So sometimes people get better quickly with certain techniques. Let's say a manual therapy technique. You pop someone's neck or their back, and I'm trained to do manipulation. I can do some of those things, but they get pain relief. They haven't been sufficiently strengthened. They go out and they run, and they hurt themselves because they haven't built themselves good strength. They haven't built themselves a good resilience. So I really think it's important that your rehab takes you to the right level, that your rehab, your exercises are in places that you need to work at. So not bands down here. If you need to be repetitively lifting stuff out of a cabinet or throwing a ball, not just regular unweighted body weight squats. If you need to be more resilient to load, if you need to land on one leg repetitively like you do in running, okay? And I think if you actually kind of take that full process and you apply it well, you start to see results that you wouldn't necessarily expect. So one thing I get being out of network is a good number of people who are coming for a second, third, fourth, maybe even fifth opinion. They've been to therapists, chiropractors, doctors. Some cases they even have surgeries that haven't worked. And I ask them questions about their rehab, and I find, for example, you're a runner and they haven't done anything on one leg. And as soon as we start to work on those things and we start to load them up, we start to see results. And I think one great example of that is a runner that I've worked with, Donnie. And I can talk about him. He signed a release and he did a really cool video for us. But one of the things that was interesting for Donnie was whenever he'd got irritated and hurt himself during rehab, people would tell him to back off. And he had a tendon problem. And actually what was interesting is tendons like heavier loads. They don't really do very much in response to light loads of any significance. They like heavy loads. So in Donnie's case, I was trying to encourage him to load heavier. Well, that's very counterintuitive when you've been told the opposite for so long, or even when your body's trying to tell you that. And I was encouraging him, he'd send me a message saying, hey, it's kind of flared up again. And I'm like, okay, what are you doing? He's like, I'm doing this weight. Okay, how many reps are you doing? About 10 to 12. Okay, how many more reps could you do at that weight? And he'd be like, well, probably another 5 or 10. I'm like, you're not loading it enough. You're not loading it enough and putting enough tension through that tendon for that tendon to make structural changes in response. And so he'd then go away and he'd load it up heavier, totally against the intuition he had and the previous teaching he had. Well, guess what? His pain improved. Donnie at that point was at risk of not completing in the cotton row, and he was one of 5 athletes who'd done every single cotton row. I think it was 37 or 8 cotton rows at that point. And he managed to run the cotton row. Oh, there's a little announcement over the telephone there. Be quiet. So anyway, he was able to run cotton row. He was able to gradually build himself back up towards a marathon, whereas previously with the rehab, he'd got to 6 miles, re-injured, 6 miles, re-injured. And he's made really good progress, but it's counterintuitive to what he expects, but it's very, very specific. And some of the exercises he did, he's like, I've never done these before. I'm like, okay, that's okay. There's nothing, doesn't mean they're wrong. And I say, you've done the same things again and again, or similar things at different places, and they've not got you better. I think it's important that you now give yourself time to try and see whether those things help you. So anyway, I just think if you're a sportsman, if you're even not a sportsman, if you're an active adult and there are things you can't do in your life, and the rehab really isn't taking you in a direction that you can see helping you to get to that place, do contact me. Now I think there's only one person online right now, and I mean, if you coming and going, just see if you've got any questions. You can chime in here now on the comments, and you can, after the fact, you can put questions in the comments, and they'll come up, and I'll respond to them then. If you want to, you can send us a message via Facebook. You can reach out by phone, 256-529-7395, or you can email me at andrew.walker@PhysioWorksHSV.com. So anyone who's still out there online with us right now, got any questions about specific sports rehab or rehab for an active adult who's really struggling to do the things they want to, any other questions that you might have for a physical therapist? I think everyone's outside enjoying that sunshine. Okay, I'll give it a couple more minutes and see if anyone's got any questions. So maybe as a runner, you got an injury, are you doing the right things? As a runner or a CrossFitter or another sport, has the person actually watched what you need to do? Lots of things that you can have questions about, and this isn't always the forum people want to ask questions, so if you're seeing this video after the fact, you can either put a comment on here. If you want to message privately, you can do a Facebook message, and you can also reach out by phone, 256-529-7395, or you can reach out by email, andrew.walker@PhysioWorksHSV.com. Alrighty, I'm going to sign off now. I've got a patient coming shortly, and if you have any questions, please reach out, and have a great weekend. Take care. I just had to do that again. You'll have a good weekend.